So who am I? I am Matt Robson. I am Director of Consultancy and Solutions Delivery for Testing Solutions Group, also known as TSG. What do we do? Clues in the name. I come from an academic psychology background. Insert your own pun there. I'm also a commissioned army officer in the Royal Regiment of Artillery. So that's a kind of mixed up background and probably will give you a sense of where my head's at-ish. Okay, Agile. So I deal with a lot of big, complex organisations. My background is actually largely from the client side. So the kind of things I've done in the past are, I was head of QA for Barclays Global Group CIO. I ran testing across the business units of AXA in the UK and a number of functions, including testing QA, release management, other bits and pieces for Zurich Life in the UK, and then set up that capability up for Zurich Global Life. So I'm kind of used to working at scale. Then I went over to consultancy, also known as the dark side, in sort of solutions director, director of consultancy, head of practice type roles. So I've had that joy of looking at a wide range of organisations in different sectors with different cultures, different methodologies, different approaches, good stuff and some pretty bad stuff. I think my favourite statement in a cab to date was, let's crash land this baby and put the fires out on the ground. Good-o. So, who remembers the Maureen Lipman advert for BT? He's got an ology. It was a sociology GCSE. Not there's anything wrong with sociology. Now, one of the challenges with Agile is, like a lot of these things, there's Agile as a way of delivering change, and there's Agile as an ology. And like a lot of these things in solutions delivery and software delivery, a lot of methods become ologies, which is very close to theology, and people get very theologically bound to ideas, as opposed to actually thinking, what is it we're trying to achieve as an outcome? What are our immediate goals and what are our bigger goals? And often we hear businesses demanding, we want to go Agile. Well, what on earth do you mean by that? Well, usually they come up with some glib statement like, we want things better, faster, cheaper. Yeah, it's that easy. Okay. But often Agile is seen as a solution to a problem without actually questioning what they mean by Agile, and hence the be Agile or do Agile. Is it do Agile, follow a method slavishly, whether or not it's right in your context, or is it be Agile? It's look at your circumstances and consider what are the best tools and techniques in a given circumstance that you can employ. Now, if you think back, those of you that are familiar with the original manifesto, I think there were something like 18 signatories of that, yeah? One of them worked in QA, and his contribution was to call it a manifesto, right? So you can tell the level of influence of QA in testing at that point. Now, as things have gone on in the testing industry, and it's kind of an interesting debate to watch as someone who, while I consider myself a tester, I don't have a pointy head and I can speak without dribbling, okay? Harsh but fair, probably. You know, it's interesting seeing the theological debates about Agile being the death of testing. Nah, rubbish. Agile is an opportunity for the testing discipline to evolve, but it's also an opportunity to bring some common sense into the way Agile is implemented by a lot of organisations. So think about it this way. Pure agility works really well when you're building something from scratch as a greenfield. Now, come on then, show of hands, how many people here genuinely build things from scratch on a regular basis versus implementing or updating? Yeah, he's got two hands up, right. So about 5 of you in the room. So most of the time you're doing change, you're adding to, updating, configuring something. And that in itself means that when you take a change that you've made, you're going to have to integrate it into some sort of legacy portfolio. And hence a lot of the traditional pure principles of Agile don't really work in that context. So is Agile the death of testing? No, because even if you have developers doing testing activity during the Agile life cycle, when you start thinking about systems integration, acceptance testing, because those business people need to get involved somehow, then you start thinking about more traditional testing disciplines. And one of the challenges is that you need people that can think and evolve in an Agile way. So I think about some of the best Agile practices I've seen and how they've been implemented in different life cycles. So for example, sometimes when people say, I want to go Agile, it means actually our relationship with our business is completely broken and they are disengaged. And they think by going magically agile, you'll fix that. Well, no, you won't. You need to think slightly differently. And one of the great things about agile as a method, as an approach, is if you do it right, it's a fantastic opportunity to get everyone involved in delivering the change, those on the receiving end, those defining it, and those supporting the creation of that change, highly engaged. It's an investment. It's a shift of mindset that rather than get involved and do it the other way, because I'm facing you, get involved at the beginning and define some requirements, go away from 9 months, do a bit of UAT and decide that your business has moved on, you've changed your mind, and then go in 6 months of eternal change. A way that keeps people really well engaged throughout the life cycle, that actually helps you draw out a real understanding of requirement, implicit, explicit and complete, using agile techniques, is a really effective way of using agile methodology, agile mentality, agile culture, as opposed to slavishly following a different method that creates you a different set of problems. Now, I guess as a consultant, and particularly a big gob one that's been in some senior roles, you often get asked to go help people solve problems. And it's quite a nice place to be, actually. You know, you don't make the problem, you get to fix the problem, you hope. Okay? And one of the challenges with agile is that the technology people make a decision, we're going agile, whatever that means, but they forget to engage their business in that conversation. So the business gets a newology, they get a new set of expectations. They're actually in some ways harder to meet than they might expect. But the real trick to make it work is creating the level of engagement, not just at a project or a change level, but a cultural level, at a whole systematic change management level, and getting those business people engaged. It's also focusing on outcomes rather than the process. So part of the military background for me is you solve problems, and there's this little phrase we had, improvise, adapt, overcome. I think it's actually Clint Eastwood from Heartbreak Ridge, but there we go. Right. But it's the idea that you look at what you're trying to solve and you look at the range of options you have to solve it within the given constraints. You know, some of you work in regulated industries, some of you might have a business that is risk averse, but you work out, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve and this is how I'm going to go about it. The Agile Toolkit is an amazing way to speed up delivery, build confidence through engagement, get people really involved and drive out the requirements, but you don't necessarily need to be purist about it. You can, I can't use the naughty word because I'm being recorded, you can improvise, you can change it and adapt, but don't make it into another ology, because my experience, particularly with large financial services companies, is where there is a slavish method adoption, you just create a whole new set of problems, rather than thinking, here's a new set of tools, techniques that I can employ that'll help me overcome the challenges I've got to. So, you know, my advice is think about what you're trying to achieve. Don't be slavish in method adoption, but, you know, think about what are the things I can do to fix problems with engagement, drive quality, get results quicker, but in a context that works for your technology, your people, tools and process. Right, that's me before I get dragged off with a fishhook. Any questions? Stunned silence, always good.
So you mentioned about don't be religious about agile.
Yeah.
Isn't there a danger that if you don't get religious about agile, the old waterfall thinking starts to creep in?
Between fragile, wagile and yeah. I get asked a lot, what are the critical success factors for delivering change? And for me, one of the obvious statements, but it's the obvious statement we always forget, is try and get that sense of engagement and definition of what you're trying to deliver done up front. And part of that is about like requirements or product backlog, whatever name you give that thing that defines what you're going to deliver. But the other is agreeing your approach. And like any good sort of, you know, change delivery, it's agree it and then change, manage accordingly, rather than drift into your old bad habits. It's also the ability to learn from what you're doing. So, you know, Agile allows you to fail fast as well as develop quickly, but then it gives you the opportunity to incorporate that learning very quickly into your methodology. So for me, it's about, you know, sort of classic control, change management. Say what you're going to do it, and where you change it, do it in a controlled manner. Any more questions? So I've set the bar nice and low for the next two. Great, thank you.